Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a wonderful afternoon. And just to welcome you and let you know that we shall begin soon. So I think in the next 5 minutes or so, we should be able to begin. Yeah. Yeah. So for information, for those who are not here, who are not on following via via Zoom, we also live National Evolution Talks, courtesy of Uganda Evolution Association, is also streaming live. So for those ones who maybe were traveling or something and they don't have time to maybe connect straight to Zoom, you can watch us straight via the provided YouTube links. So I'm here with my colleague Matthias. Call me Eugene. I am the representative for academia on UEA, and Matthias is the representative of the CSOs on UEA board. So I know as we go along, some of our ExCom members are going to be here, just to let you know that, so feel free as we go along, please observe the room rules. We are going to be live, so we expect you when you enter the room, we keep it, diplomatic. If you have anything to say or you want to ask, please just shoot it in the QA or chat. If it is something during the Q&A session, if you feel like you want to speak out, you'll also be allowed to speak. So for now, everybody's muted, but when that time comes, you're going to be allowed to speak. Just in 1 minute, we should be able to begin. I see our guest is here, Julius. Let me first upgrade our guest, and also okay, Matthias, is there anything you want to tell us before we begin?
Okay, thank you very much, Eugene, for starting us off. We have been waiting for this talk for a while, and given that we've been in the budget process, this is a pertinent time to discuss some of these issues among the evaluation community. And we hope that this talk today will highlight some of those key things and also question how we as evaluators are participating or not, or opportunities therein within our sphere of influence in terms of the way we work. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it for the while, because we would like our presenter to start right away. Eugene, have we done the prayer? Eugene?
I'm going to begin now.
Okay, let's start with a prayer, then I'll introduce our speaker, then we shall take it on from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father. Thank you, Lord, for your good unto us. We glorify you and honor you, for you're worthy of it all. You deserve it all. We come in your presence to give you thanks and honor. We come in your presence to give you thanks for the life we lead right now. And we just come, Almighty Father, with an open mind, Almighty Lord, as our speaker, Mr. Julius, speaks to us today. Almighty Lord, open our minds that we shall understand, Almighty Lord, and shall receive the knowledge and shall partake of it, Almighty Lord. We are grateful that we are here to listen from him, Almighty God. And Almighty Father, with the experience that he has got, Almighty Father, help us to understand so that, Almighty Father, we can apply this knowledge in our daily lives as we go along. Almighty Father, as you have provided the resources to enable us to be in your presence today, Almighty Father, and celebrate, Almighty Lord, the goodness of the Lord himself. We are grateful and thankful for each and every bit of resource, each and every bit of internet, that we have at this moment, Almighty Father. We are thankful and grateful, and we give you thanks, and all the glory belongs to you. For it is through the mighty name of Jesus Christ that we believe and pray. Amen. Glory to God.
Amen. Thank you very much. Can you make Julius a co-host please, so that he's able to share? Ladies and gentlemen, is the executive director of the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, CSBAG. He's known to some of you, and to others he's a colleague, others he's a boss, others he's a fellow consultant. But in many fields that he comes, he's an economist by profession, and with a wealth of over 15 years experience in public finance management on issues and economic management. He is a non-gender budget expert and a budget policy specialist in Uganda. He has extensively participated in advocating for the prudent public finance reforms in Uganda. He is a campaigner for social justice and pro-poor economic governance. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Julius. Thank you very much. Julius, you may unmute and then start the presentation.
I saw him in, then he disappeared, but I can see the CSBAG secretary is also here. I don't know if Julius is back in.
Is back in? Yes. I saw
Is he?
also Julius.
He was in, but I stepped out again. So okay, as Julius comes back in, the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group has presented an insightful critique of each national budget, enabling citizens to understand better the process and need to participate in the debate.
Yes, Julius, we are now ready to move on. CSBAG, please continue. Okay, please unmute. You need to be unmuted.
They can unmute themselves.
Yeah, participants, you can unmute yourselves, but Julius, you can also unmute yourselves and also your video, please. Thank you.
No, participants cannot unmute themselves, but Julius can. Yeah.
But I think which
yeah. So as we wait for Julius to come back in, I was just stating what CSBAG is doing, and they play a very important role in ensuring that we understand the budget process and how it is done, and enabling our citizens to also be part. Okay, just a moment. Okay, so he's here. Okay, just a second. Okay, Julius, you may take it.
Ah, good.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly clear. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is I'm Julius Mukunda. I'm happy to be sharing with you a number of issues, but also our experience. I don't know if I can share my screen. If I can be around, yes, I can be around, I can see. Good. Yes, so I was approached, of course, by your colleagues to share with you our experience, but majorly on how monitoring and evaluation is being used to influence the budget process. I decided to put a few pieces. And the first, of course, is to let you know who we are. But also, I can't leave this kind of gathering without letting you know our economic outlook and also the budget itself and the challenges that we face. And then from there, I'll get you to understand how we have used M&E in our work, but also challenge you on the challenges and opportunities that exist there for a professional group like yours to support us and make even our work better. So the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group is an NGO, but we are a coalition of 100 organizations in Uganda that are interested in budget work. We were established in 2004 with a vision of a people-centered budget that dignifies humanity. And we work towards ensuring that resource mobilization, allocation, and utilization is inclusive for a transformed Uganda. So the way we work through our outreach programs. We have grassroots groups that monitor budgets and service delivery. We call them participatory budget groups, and we have a footprint in around 30 local governments since our inception. We have regional budget coalitions, East, West, North, Central, and we have we work with Parliament under the Parliamentary Forum on Public Finance Management, and the CSBAG hosts the East African Budget Network. We work on research and policy analysis to enable us to get evidence that we need to engage government. We have participatory budgeting and accountability, where we organize groups to engage in the budget process at village level. We work also a lot with media advocacy to increase our outreach, but also create debate. We collaborate with government and with other policymakers. We believe that we should be able to Okay, am I back?
Continue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, sorry, there was, I think, a disconnection. So what I was saying is that you will find that our work majorly is on public finance management, and you have seen us in so many platforms. We are talking about budgets, where money is coming from, how money is utilized and kept, how money is spent, but also citizens' participation in budget priority setting and policy. You definitely never find us in tree planting or in circles or in other things, because this is what we do. So because of that, then we I just want to briefly provide you with an idea of how our economy is. We have had a number of challenges that we have faced, and among the things I think we need to look at as a country is that it's usually economic growth. We are seeing that we are coming out of COVID. Our economy is growing. We are now being predicted to grow at 5.3%. But I think even today's paper, according to the Monitor, they are telling us that the World Bank is actually projecting 6.3%. Inflation, which had peaked in December last year, up to 10.4%. We actually know that it's now below the target of 5%, so 4.7%. So, and we have been telling, for us, we have been saying that our inflation is rain fed. When there is rain and harvests, inflation will definitely run away. When there's a drought, definitely increases. But also is to understand our data and development, to say that we are currently at 80.7 trillion by the first half of 2022-2023. So the debt stock definitely has increased, and that's something we need to understand. We also know that the National Development Plan indicators aligned to NDP have registered varying levels, for example. And GDP per capita increased from 1,000 in 2022 to 1,088 in 2023. Regionally, Uganda still enjoys free trade in the East African community. We have a trade surplus of around 136 million US dollars. But of course, we are trading a deficit with other regions. So briefly, what about the budget of Uganda for 2023-2024? We understand that currently we have a budget of 52.7 trillion Ugandan shillings, and that is a 9.5% increase from last financial year, which we ended a week ago, I think, of 8.13 trillion Ugandan shillings. The money is coming from local revenue of around 287 billion. We have budget support of 2.7 trillion, domestic borrowing of 3.38 trillion, external financing 8.6 trillion, domestic debt financing 8.3 trillion, and domestic revenue 29.6 trillion. And domestic revenue is contributing entirely half of our budget. So that's where me and you, where the money is coming from. Where are we spending the money? Of course, human capital development is taking the biggest chunk of the money, around 9 trillion, followed by governance and security, 6.8 trillion. So those are the 10 biggest winners in the budget in terms of how much they have got. And of course, we have the 10 bottom allocations. And I want you to pay more attention to tourism, but also to innovation and technology and digital transformation, where we believe this is where it's going to be taking us, but we are still getting less amount of resources. But when you look at the numbers and you want to dig them further in terms of the numbers, the picture tends to be a bit different if you look at it from a different perspective. For example, if you look at statutory expenses, these are the monies that government must pay, whether they like it or not. It includes the money we pay for our debt obligations, salaries for our very important people like the president, the vice president, the judiciary, parliament. These are monies, whether parliament wants or not, you will still spend that money. When you remove that, you find you have like 21 trillion. If you look at the current expenditure, it's around 16.8 trillion. and development budget 14.4 trillion. So the argument has always been that we need more money in development because that's where the another person is likely to benefit. You want more drugs, you want more community roads, you want more schools and all that. So you can look at it from that perspective. But of recent also, there is a new perspective that we have put into the budget. We are looking at, if you have the 57 trillion, how much money is available for government to spend on its citizens directly for service delivery. We've realized that the budget of 52 trillion, 27.5 trillion is amount of money for debt servicing. That's the amount of money we pay for debt, interest, debt amortization, interest payment, our debt in the Bank of Uganda, domestic areas, recapitalization of Bank of Uganda. Those monies reached 27.58 trillion Ugandan shillings, leaving a balance of 25.6. But of this 25.6, if we remove wages and salaries of 7.4 trillion, we end up like 17.7 trillion Ghana shillings. That's probably the amount of money available for government to spend on itself. It means that if you have another catastrophe, you are likely not actually to address it. So we call this fiscal space. So it's not that we have 52.7 trillion, but actually in our assessment, there's only 17.7 Ugandan shillings. So what are the key budget issues that we've been looking at and engaging government on? Of course, first and foremost is what I've just talked about, that out of 52.7, only 25 is available for government spending, but if you deduct salaries, you end up with something like 17. So there is very little fiscal space for government for development. We also have the issue of NPA certification, National Planning Authority Certificate of Compliance. And Parliament has been very candid on this. And overall program annual budget outturn of half year was aligned at 54%, and which was unsatisfactory. Out of 69 core projects, 10% of the projects are on schedule, and the rest are not. So that's a very big problem that you have the NP, NDP, which you are not improving. In fact, the meantime review put the NDP performance at around 17%. We have the monster called supplementary budgets. And supplementary budgets continue to distort the budget process. The regulations are very clear that a supplementary expenditure must be unavoidable, unabsorbable, and unforeseeable. Unavoidable means that something has happened, you just can't avoid it. You need to deal with it. That even when it has happened, you don't have space within the budget that you have to spend on it. And that also it must be unforeseen, that it is something that you never thought would happen, like landslides, for example. But recently we are seeing that the supplementary budget is continues to be abused in a major number of ways. One is, there is when Parliament decides not to pay a particular obligation. For example, you've heard of the Munyonyo money, you've heard of our shares to buy in the sugar factory in Atiak. Parliament vehemently said, do not pay these people because we consider this as wastage expenditure. But government said, thank you very much. And because they have a provision of 3% of the national budget, they went ahead and paid those people anyway. So in a way, you are reducing the power of appropriation from Parliament and also giving it more to the executive. The other element we are also witnessing is that agencies do not want to budget for their core mandate. They budget for other things and then come back and say, do you know what? We did not budget for example, Minister of Energy or Roads can come and say, we did not budget for money for resettlement of or right of way purchase. And yet you knew very well that this is the project that without getting the right of way, the project can't pass. So that now qualifies as supplementary expense. Simply because if you add all of those into your sector budget, then you not have enough money for yourself to travel abroad. You've heard of people who travel abroad and they spend millions of money just on phone calls only in 1 week. So that process is being abused. That's why even people don't budget for salaries and pension. And yet the first call on the budget should be salaries and also and pension. So it's really becoming a process that is being abused. And I think for us is that it's because of there is poor planning, but also the issue around when you have limited resources, you intend to find creative ways of even getting more money. In fact, we know that some agencies plan and even write to Ministry of Finance, tell them, guys, the 3% allocation on supplementary budget, please reserve some for me, even before the budget process is finished. But there's also this issue that we feel that government probably is doing it intentionally, because when you look at previously the slide I gave you, this one, there is this 8.3 for domestic refinancing. When 8.3 domestic financing, this is the amount of money that you need actually to borrow and pay the debt. So you dig a new pit and fill the old one. In fact, it shouldn't actually be in the budget. But when you put it in the budget, it really puts the budget up to 52.7 trillion Ghana shillings. So which means that the 3% of 52 trillion Ghana shillings gives government a huge wiggle room to spend on supplementary budget. If actually we had removed this money, then the amount of money available for government to spend on supplementary budget would definitely reduce very much. So we find that as a very big, very big concern that it needs to be tamed. Last financial year, supplementary budgets amounted to 6.2 trillion Ugandan shillings. This financial year, they are around 2.9 trillion Ugandan shillings. We hope that the trend can continue so that we can definitely reduce on supplementary expenditure, because we can't run away from them. We have all these disasters happening. We just can't run away from supplementary budgeting. There is also an issue of leakages and lack of fiscal discipline. And I just wanted to give a few examples, and then you can see how our system is really very vulnerable and very weak. The Auditor General said that after an extensive payroll audit of 139 local governments, he uncovered a significant loss of 19 billion Ugandan shillings. These are people who had fake documents to be recruited. Now, you can forget that, but there is overpayment of salaries and pensions. We had a loss of 3.8 billion Ugandan shillings. You are supposed to be paid in a scale, and then you are paid in a higher scale. So what does it tell you about our own systems? That you can actually pay a person in the system more than what they deserve. So this leakage in the system must be fixed. It is not only in the payroll, but you will later learn that actually it is in all projects of government that we are not good at keeping and paying the right amounts. But also in terms of fiscal discipline is that despite having a strategy to eliminate domestic arrears also continue to increase. And in just 1 year, from 4.6 to 7.5 trillion Ugandan shillings. And with this, it is very specific. The regulations are: do not commit government if you don't have money in the budget. And somebody still goes ahead and commits government as an accounting officer. So that lack of discipline is definitely going to give budget implementers a very big headache. On tax exemptions, and I think for me this is a very big area, is that tax exemptions, of course, this is tax foregone. And I think as of March 2023, they had reached at 15.6 trillion Ugandan shillings from 2.1 trillion in 2016-2017. This is huge amount of money. that we are losing. Now, the fact of the matter is that the country Uganda, where it is situated, it cannot run away from tax exemptions, but we can be smart by ensuring that tax exemptions actually bring returns. So if you're an investor and you come to Uganda and we give a tax exemptions on condition that you provide employment for this number of people, you increase production for this number of people, you add value, we should be able to monitor that. And that monitoring mechanism is missing. That's why an investor who comes now turns into a chapati seller in the next financial year, and we can't even trace them. There has been a huge issue about budget monitoring and performance and execution. And sometimes you wonder where as government we are. And I picked a few extracts again from the Auditor General's office. And this help even you as specialist in M&E to see how we can help government really. There was what they called the Muzizi hydropower plant, whose contract was cancelled. And this Muzizi was a contract signed around 2016. And as of last financial year, we had not implemented. By the time of cancelling the loan, no disbursement had been made. However, we had incurred 3.9 billion in commitment fees. So you have a contract which you have signed and you are unable to implement the project, simply because you are not prepared at all to start that particular project. But it is year 1, it is year 2, it is year 3, 6, 7 years down the road is when now you begin to say, let me cancel. First is, why would you sign a contract if you are not ready? And number 2, why don't you cut your losses earlier? And you lose less than 3.9 billion on just a single contract. Ginger Express Highway project is an 865 billion Uganda shilling project. For the last 3 years, up to 2020-2021, no funds were drawn from this facility, indicating the slowdown work of the project. However, a total of 3 billion was paid to the lender as commission fees for the undisbursed funds. And I mean, all of us, we know how much we need Kampala Ginger Express Highway, but money is there, contract was signed, we haven't moved on. Again, why would we sign a contract when we are not ready? So there are a number of those projects, there are a number of those issues in the government. It's not only roads, it's in power, it's even building classrooms. I mean, you heard of Nambole here, how it is not yet finished. How do we help government as M&E experts put in place, steps, measures, so that some of these things really can be avoided and we don't waste a lot of resources. Evidence-based decision-making in the government is extremely lacking. Government can begin to propose a program, and then you ask yourself, where did they base themselves? And I just picked one. URA is supposed to collect an additional 3.3 trillion Uganda shillings in the next financial year. If there is anyone of you who has seen a study that informed this forecast, please share it with me. I would need to see that. Because at least what we know is that the growth of URA expenses has been moderate in 2 trillion, there an additional 2 trillion. But 3.3 trillion is quite a huge one. But also it's important to understand that government really needs. So if you want to bring a new tax, you need to provide the cost benefit analysis. You need to have done a forecast and say, look, considering this is what we are likely to lose, but this is what we are likely to gain. That is something that is missing. It is not only a tax, but even on these projects that we are running. Somebody will say, so we are now having the idea or the the issue around projects are just politically driven. Yes, we know there is politics, but for heaven's sake, if you look at agriculture, for example, there are a number of so many ghost milling machines and also milk coolers, simply because they were put in the wrong places. If you put a milk cooler, for example, here in Kampala, maybe in a place where there are no cows, definitely it's not going to work. If you put a maize mill in Karamoja, there is no maize to mill in Karamoja. So there are so many of those ghost projects in the government. And I think it's very critical and very important that a team like yours needs really to come in and see how we can support the government. One of the biggest challenges we face, even here at CSBAG, is these so many PFM reforms and how we have tracked their performance and see whether they have actually achieved what they wanted. There is the program-based approach. It's a huge government PFM program where everybody they said we no longer want to work in sectors, we need now to work in a program approach. Have we achieved what we needed? What are the challenges? What do we need to do? If you read the reports, you find that people are still having a problem of working together as in a program work. We have the e-government procurement. We have the human resource management system, the domestic areas strategy. I mean, there are so many projects that are PFM reforms that we need to put ourselves on to ask and say, are they delivering? The domestic resource mobilization strategy, for example, has it delivered? Can we be able to analyze and assess its performance and see what we can be able to do? So it's quite very important. So when you look at all what is happening, then for us as CSBAG, we come in and say, how can M&E help us in our budget advocacy work? And we found that we have been able to do 4 major things. And these include, one is that we need to generate knowledge. That's very important. Generation of knowledge helps us in supporting our advocacy work. So we conduct studies, which is very important, to be able to make a position. When we started, of course, this was extremely very difficult, but now at least we have gained some capacity to do this work. But still, there is a lot of work to be done here. For example, we've never done citizens' perception about the budget. Because who decides that these are the priorities for this country? That's very important. And have we done a survey and say the people of Uganda, this is what they need, and therefore this is where we should put our money? And maybe I ask myself, agriculture is the backbone of the economy. Everybody says that. Why is it not growing the way we want it? Maybe there is something fundamental that we need to ask around and see what should be done. The second one, for us in our interfacing M&E and able to work, is reflection of our work in progress. And this is for us where we sit down and say, what has been our success? What has been our challenges? And that is when we say, okay, we get to government and say, thank you, this program is working, but please, this program is not working, get it out of the system or reform it. Because if our advocacy work has not been able to succeed in the way we want. So reflection and learning has been one of the areas that we invest in majorly. Engagement and collaboration is also another area, because we want to be in those spaces where decisions are being made. The annual program reviews, MDA technical working meetings, local government budget consultations, national budget conferences, parliamentary committees, World Bank, IMF meetings, we are there because we want to understand how decisions are made so that we can be able to come and take and make a position of ourselves. Participation and accountability has been among our biggest area of work because again, M&D help us to understand how many people have we reached, how many meetings have we attended, how many spaces have we occupied, how many knowledge products have we published, but also how many of our our proposals to government have been undertaken. Because you can see in last financial year, 77 alternative budget proposals were adopted, because they are the issues we propose to government, and government takes them or does not take them. So again, M&E helps us in that particular area. We have achieved a few things, but I just wanted also to bring a few slides here for you in terms of when we say our contribution over the years in enhancing budget accountability. We also track and see 2015 were in 2 districts, how many service delivery gaps were addressed by the duty bearers, because our communities also have their issues and the districts address them. So we have this number of tracker that we use to tell us, yes, we are engaging government and we are effective in engaging government. At the national level, every financial year, we also document how many of our proposals have been taken and how many of our proposals have not been taken. So we also document that, and also at different levels. So that also helps us in terms of understanding which proposals are taken and which proposals are not taken. But I want to challenge the M&E profession here in this country, because I think one of the issues we are facing in this country is that when it comes to evaluating government performance, especially from the budget perspective, it is still a very big problem. We still take it business as usual. Issues around inadequate data, issues around inadequate and access of updated data. Data is still not available. Even that is available, you will find that it's not updated. And that becomes a very big challenge. So we need that. We need a centralized system. We need a standard that government needs to be able to, especially administrative data from these different ministries and agencies. We need that to be done. Low utilization and generation of citizens-generated data. I'm glad that UBOS has actually put up a toolkit on how to do that, but we still find this information is not being utilized, but also its generation is still very low. So this is where we would like the profession to come in. Compressed budget information. I mean, budget, of course, being budget, very few people want to engage on it, but also the data sets that are required, the information that is there also becomes a bit extremely complex. So in which way can we use the profession to help us make this data easy to read and understand by an ordinary person? Different sources of information on the same subject matter. If you go to Ministry of Finance, they will give you their date data. If you go to Parliament, they will give you their date data. If you go to Bank of Uganda, they will also give you their own date data. So which data are you going to use? Different information for different sources on the same subject matter. So we need you to engage government on that. And a government definitely does not treat data collection and information, definitely won't move ahead. Limited simplification of available budget information and data. Again, like I said, we need groups, so we need a team of experts like yours to help us simplify this information further, especially the budget. Because when somebody looks at, like the graphs I gave you, an ordinary person is not going to make a lot of sense around that. He really wants you to simplify it further. At the end of the day is how much money is going for construction of boreholes, how much money is going for extension services. They just need that particular information to dig it further. Limited utilization information to inform budget priority. And I think this is where I talked about studies that are needed to inform a policy. If we came up with a PDM, which is a very good idea, we are all on it. But what informed this setup is anybody who has got background information and say, this country needs PDM and we need to put 1 trillion Ugandan shillings, not 2 trillion Ugandan shillings. That is missing. Poor dissemination of government performance reports. And I don't know if Margaret Kakande is here. And for me, this is something that is very dear to my heart. is that the government spends money to conduct evaluations for its projects, but they will end up not disseminating this information. The least they can do is put it on their website, and that's it. They have finished it. But we need debate around these areas. For example, the OPM actually publishes the annual Government of Uganda performance report. But if you have a copy, please, my colleagues from OPM, please share it with me. I don't need to use backdoor to get such a kind of reports. And yet those reports are important for us to be able to engage government in the right way. But these reports also they will be able to be shared by experts like you to be able to generate information, truth information that you can feed to the public and their work. Thank you very much. A pleasure being with you, and any questions, comment, I would welcome to answer. Hello?
Julius, colleagues, are you able to?
Yes.
Okay, please, now you can unmute and put your questions. But before we go into the Q&A question, thank you very much, our presenter, Julius, for the illustrious elaboration on the challenges that you made, but also the gaps that you find in the use of evidence in the national budget. Now, I would like us to have some comments from the UEA, then we go into the Q&A. Those comments will be coming from the Vice President of the Uganda Evaluation Association, Mrs. Josephine Watela. Josephine?
Thank you so much, Matthias. Sorry, I will speak off video. I'm not in a very strong networked place. I really want to appreciate Julius for making time for us. And I knew that he's the best choice for this topic. Julius, we appreciate. I'm your friend for many years. So once we say Josephine Watera, you know who you're talking to. But of course, you have raised very critical issues for us as evaluators to think about, especially at such a time when the world is talking about evidence-informed, evidence-based, evidence use in decision making, evidence to policy. There's a lot of debate that is tending to go to that direction, and therefore it's important for us as generators, synthesizers, providers of evidence to be ready on our side. And one of the things that I like that you highlighted very critically is being in the spaces where evidence is needed and where decisions are taking place, because this has been the missing gap, that many times we have information, and you've highlighted part of this, that we have good reports, evaluations that have been done, and they have been hung in the shelves. When you enter in somebody's office, they will say, in the last 5 years, we have done the following 2 evaluations or 3 evaluations. But when you want to ask how has this evaluation actually reached to the people, the stakeholders, what are the actions that were proposed, to what extent these actions have actually been put on paper, I mean on table, beyond the paper, or is influencing some project in a community, then you find that we don't have an answer for that. And so you've raised the bar for us as evaluators. Do we see opportunities to bring out the information that is in our shelves, information that is in our background where we work in? And what is very important also in this discussion, and you've talked about it, the aspects of collaboration, that these things of thinking that the mentality of thinking that this does not concern us. When information needs to be collected on labor, you'll just be quiet and say, after all, there's the Ministry of Labor. I think it's time that we we develop and create strong think tanks that can generate evidence and generate evaluation findings that can actually go out there and influence without us waiting for government. I work in a government environment, but I know the bureaucracies and procedures. By the time a proposal is approved, and then data collection is done, and then there is the validation, and then there is publication, and then there is the workshop that needs to be fixed for the dissemination to be done, and then there is the so and so to authorize that the following points should be put on paper. But that space, when it is entered in by academia, by researchers, by great think tanks like your own CSBAG, it is more acceptable. It's more, there's a lot of credibility that is associated with independent information. It doesn't have strings attached. There is no egos between one ministry and another ministry on who is the authority in this subject or in this information. So for me, I really want us to step up as evaluators. You've given us a challenge to see to what extent you can identify ourselves in groups and say this is the theme that we want to pick, or the sector that we think we can influence, and generate information, and also reach out to these spaces voluntarily reach out to some of these places and say, you are looking for this information. We've had this disaster that has happened 2 times, 3 times in Kasese. As a team, we think we can come up with the following studies using maybe GIS. We think this is how you can prepare communities on disasters before they hit them. We think that these are the areas where disaster is very prone. At least let's have the information there and then struggle to have it being used. But like in the situation where people even sometimes want to have this information, but for us on our side as providers, we've not made this information ready, available. So I really want to appreciate you. I'm glad that you've picked very practical examples for us to learn from, and I will let other members on the call to come in with their questions. But on behalf of Uganda Evaluation Association, I appreciate that you accepted to come through for this, and we look forward to working together, collaborating in case you need people who can quickly do for you data, to run through quick analysis, small briefs. There's a whole team of people here on call, and behind this, there are other people who have not been able to join today, but who have the will and the zeal and the energy and experience and knowledge to support the works of CSBAG, so that together we can build Uganda and make this a greater nation. So thank you so much. I will stop at that, hand it back to Matthias and pick up the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Josephine. Those are useful remarks. Colleagues, we have a number of comments and questions that have come through as our presenter made his piece. We have Rosette Churchill. Rosette, can you unmute and present your issue? Rosette?
Matthias, it's easy to unmute them. They cannot unmute themselves.
Oh, okay.
Just
Right.
click.
You said, Rosette Churchill, you said government carries out evaluations through such information, though such information is not adequately shared. May I understand?
Hello.
May I understand how you want the evaluators of you to help CSBAG, yet evaluation information is under the control of the client? That is Rosette. But we also had Dauda. Dauda, are you online? You can unmute yourself. I've allowed members to unmute themselves, and then they can present their issue. Dauda? Dauda? Okay. Dauda was asking, I'm also wondering whether the huge data we have and reports have been adequately utilized for making right decisions. Otherwise, it remains useless in terms of all the vast amount of data that is being collected and not being applied in depth for the budget allocations. Colleagues, if there's any other comment?
Matthias, there's a hand that has been up for a long time for Kenneth.
Oh, from Motikal. Yes.
Yes.
Motikal, please go ahead. Motikal, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Matthias, and thank you, Josephine, for reminding Matthias that my arm was getting tired being out. So I need to commend a CSBAG for honoring an invitation and to accept to deliver a talk in relation to the government of Uganda budgeting process. I've actually been waiting for this opportunity, and also for my group, the Uganda Evaluation Association, also to at least be heard or to be, seen as meaningful in the budgeting process. And this is an encouraging step, okay? And I wish we continue doing it. And one of my comments is related to the relevance of the Uganda Evaluation Association government business. Before I submit, I also want to re-echo what Joseph said. Yes, I am a government officer. I contribute to the budgeting, planning and budgeting process. And some of the comments I am going to raise, I feel I am a little conflicted. And I hope I am going to be protected. I know the thing is recorded. I would want to speak freely. And I believe, Matthias, you and the team, you will protect me. I am going to put on my shoes as a member of this professional body, not as a government employee. So that's what I wanted to share, and I hope I'll be protected. Now, just a few comments. Based on my experience, I've been in the planning and budgeting, I say, arena for I think about 18 years plus in government, and I started this thing in very long time since the local government. And I have to admit that yes, we have had a lot of reforms that have improved the planning and budgeting process, not as implementation, but there's still a gap. And one of the areas I would want to just make a comment is the certificate of compliance that was mentioned. Okay? Well, the certificate of compliance is done at probably at ministerial policies level, where we do ministerial policy statements. And that's more or less when we are doing our draft budget estimate. And kind of at the moment, people are praising the alignment of a wish list. But by the time you conclude this process to the final budget estimates, you'll find that a lot of things have changed significantly from the level of ministerial policy statement. So also CSBAG need to note that yes, these appraisal process probably needs to be revised, and they'll look at the final the final outcome of the budget. If we really want to make the certificate of compliance a little relevant. And then the issue of supplementaries, just a comment. Yes, I think they try to reform issues of supplementary. I think during my course of work, I think they have reformed it like more or less 3 times, but it still continues to be, I don't want to say abused, but probably either misquoted or misused. I would actually think that probably we need further reforms, and we try to ring fence supplementaries to a section of votes that handle epidemics, security, okay, and disasters that pose a threat to the nation. This business of each and every vote, you find even the Asian Authority something, the Financial Intelligence Authority, the local government, pushing for a supplementary. I think this could be one of the areas to avoid an abuse. Probably we limit supplementaries to Ministry of Health, maybe a Ministry handling disasters like OPM, and maybe Ministry of Defense. That is a supplementary is where it's going to be recurrent and consumptive, and really it shouldn't occur. So one of my recommendations, which I think CSBAG, if you have to clarify, if you agree with me, can make a very good contribution to really the integrity of our budget. And then lastly, I think we also need for more reforms on reducing the budget stress. Over and over again, we have had a lot of budgetary expenditure going to areas that I would actually exclusively say non-development. Okay? And it's so consumptive that if government could actually either avoid them or privatize them, it would actually save us a lot of budget stress. And this is in line with what I think as the evaluation committee of CSBAG, in the line of M&E, you could support government. Okay? You can do a cost-benefit analysis or a cost-effective analysis on some of these service delivery areas. For example, if you look at the performance of health center 3s in either disease prevention, given the amount of money that government puts in it, paying staff, you don't put a lot of drugs in it, you are constructing it, but the returns to society are actually very limited. You find the government pays close to 150 million every quarter to a health center 3 to dispense aspirin, Panadol that can be accessed on the counter from the drug shop. In most cases, you can't even get it. And then there are so many areas in the budget that can be privatized for government to save what? Save. And then probably also in relation to M&E and CSBAG support area that I think it can help. I want you to interest yourself in one, unpacking the final budget estimates, either at program level or vote level. You could sample. At one moment, I did a rough analysis on some votes, and I found out that nearly 30% of the expenditures can be avoided. They can either be inflated, they can actually be a duplication, okay? So if for each and every probably budget year, you just sample 1 or 2, 3 votes, okay? And you do a deep analysis, a case by case. It will give you a picture of how a 52 trillion budget would actually be a 28 or a 30 trillion what? Budget. And then my very last one. I was touched when you mentioned about the local government performance assessment. And it's also an M&E area where we can contribute and inform government. Because I have observed that there are districts that continue to underperform for 3 years consecutively. And yet, there have been performance improvement plans. So we could interest ourselves as evaluation practitioners, or even actually CSBAG, and ask ourselves, how come, despite the Ministry of Local Government, can this district consistently perform poorly? There could be a policy or a systemic issue that needs to be addressed for this people to actually perform and deliver service. And then also you could also interest yourself in doing kind of a peer review on the performance assessment results. Because from what I see is OPM just, I think, of course, they get consultants, different groups. I don't know, I've also heard here there are some quality assurance processes, which are mainly within either the people who are consuming what, or who are generating that analysis. But also as an evaluation body, or as a coalition, we could actually also do a peer review of some of these performance assessment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Could we have our colleague Julius to respond to that? Then we continue with the subsequent comments from our colleagues. Julius, your response?
Yes. Thank you so much, Matthias. Thanks so much, colleagues who have raised questions, but also comments. For Kenneth, I think I could not hear very well, but what I got major about is, I mean, the things that we can work on and even do better than what we are doing. Cost benefit analysis, certificate of compliance. I mean, like, I can hear you, but I could just also say that for me, really is a question of having a professional body like yours on how we can support government. Because as CSBAG, we just can't do everything, but we can partner. Because as CSBAG, I just have an M&E officer, for example. And I don't think I would subject my M&E officer to do a cost benefit analysis. I can't do that because he's usually overwhelmed. But synergies also help in people listening. Because if the government hears that in collaboration with UEA, CSBAG has produced this report, I can tell you there is much more respect that it can be given. So I really want you to come up and we collaborate in this area. Josephine, I can hear you long time. I think for me is the issue of supporting each other is very critical. And you mentioned a statement which I have told the people that everybody, whether you are rich or poor, this money that the government appropriates affects you. If they increase taxes, it is the rich who are going to pay these taxes. Because remember, the tax register is still very limited. There are very few people who are paying taxes. So it still comes to you who is in the middle class, or if government has not delivered, like this financial year, government has not budgeted for extension services. Government has only budgeted for salaries, but not for fuel that can take extension officers in the villages, advise farmers. So this PDM we are seeing that is going to work out might actually collapse because nobody is going to advise farmers when plant, what to plant, and they end up making losses. So I think we all get to do this type of work. Rosette, I think, mentioned the issue around how can we support CSBAG. I think for me is where we need support is where we need to be more evidence-based. Can you, for example, say, let's evaluate, I mean, like Kenneth said, can we evaluate one government program? Because we can work together and then we disseminate these services. Because PDM, on a personal note, I did not want to evaluate it from the beginning because the results were very clear that actually there were no results. But after 3 years down the road, you want now to evaluate it. That is a very good area that definitely can collaborate. Another area, of course, is capacity building. I think in the civil society world, for us, M&E is about how to develop a goal, how to develop an objective, and how to develop an outcome. But it is more than that. It's about providing government with how it has performed a particular project so they can correct and don't waste resources. For example, there is this issue we came about. PDM, each parish is supposed to get 100 million. Thank you very much. But it was on an assumption that each parish has the same number of people. So when we went in the database of government, we found out that Mutungo parish in Nakawa has a population of 64,663 people. Mutungo parish in Nakawa. And that parish is going to get 100 million. But Ibauro parish in Adjuman district has a population of 892 people. On what basis did we use to allocate money for PDM? So you find that we really find one size fits for all does not work. So we can work together on a variety of government programs. We can collaborate, like even today, we collaborate and we have collaborated and worked on this event, which is very important. We can even do further and participate in the National Budget Month and be probably in 1 year just do one study because you are very many people. I'm very sure a lot can be done about that. Thank you so much, Matthias.
Thank you very much, Julius, for that elaborate response. We have also Joyce. Joyce, can you kindly unmute and present your issue? Joyce, kindly come in and present your issue. Joyce was asking Mr. Mukunda that for the thank you for the elaborate presentation. And I'm from the academia, she says. And so my question is, for academic purposes, I would like to know more about the worth expected from the borrowed money. What is the expected impact on Uganda's development as a country? That means that where are we putting the money, in which sectors are we putting that kind of the money that we borrow, and is it having, where is the impact for it? Thank you very much. May take that.
Oh, I could take that as they're coming in, Matthias.
Yes, please.
Yes, I think Joyce, I think that this is a very good question. We are borrowing money, you know, center and right, and now we are finding even a problem on this borrowed money. There are a few things I want to talk about borrowed money, and I think you should all be interested. You see, number one, we say borrowing is not bad, and indeed borrowing is not bad. But two things: what you are borrowing for, where you are borrowing, and your capacity to use that money. The last one must be a bit of a joke, but it is a very serious business in government. So, where do you borrow from? You are allowed to, you can borrow from concessional or non-concessional, meaning you can borrow from countries where the interest rate is very low, grace period is so long, and payment period is so long. Grace period of 10 years and payment period of 40 years. That is concessional loan. You can also borrow from commercial banks, non-concessional, where you start paying immediately, whatever amount of money you get, and the interest rate is above 10% or 9% or 16%. So if you are borrowing from non-concessional, from the World Bank and IMF and these other places, you are safe. You can be manageable. We have 75% of our loan portfolio is concessional, which means it is okay. The only problem is that non-concessional loan portfolio has increased from 21% to 25%. That is not good. So that's number one. You need to look at that. Number two is, of course, what you borrow for. There is no, we cannot dispute the fact that borrowed funds have helped us to move a step further. You can look at building of schools. Most of the money has come from government loans. Hospitals, government loans. Roads, government loans. Water, government loans. So you want to borrow for those areas that are likely to bring you returns. The challenge we have now is that we've started borrowing money for operational costs. For example, last financial year, the Auditor General told us that we borrowed 4.4 trillion for operational cost. Operational cost of government means salaries and other expenses, such as fuel, workshops, special meals, and others. That's what it means. So that is a very bad indicator of what you are borrowing for. And as such, you want to put a break and say, okay, if I'm only borrowing for operations, it's high time I cut down the expense of running government. And that's why you find that for us, we are very critical on the huge cost of running government. The parliament, state house, presidency, these districts, these agencies, you know, you just imagine Public Service Commission recruits workers, Health Service Commission recruits workers of government, Teacher Service Commission recruits workers of government, Judicial Service Commission recruits workers of government. Are these separate governments? What is it? And all of these have got boards, rent, expenses, salaries, and all of it and all that. So you need to reduce that. Lastly, on loans, what you need to also be very, very critical about, your capacity to use that money that you have borrowed. Like I showed you the slides of, we have Entebbe Express runway, we borrowed money 3 years ago. We have not touched a single coin and the money is available, but because we are not prepared to use that money. The Auditor General is telling us that as of last year, we had 15.5 trillion Ugandan shillings on undisbursed loan. Disbursed loan means that loans we've committed ourselves to use, but money has not been, we have not used that money. It is still with the borrower. But we have spent 395 billion for the last 5 years on commitment fees. Commitment fees means the amount of money you pay on the loan you have not used and you're committed to, you committed to. So that's the challenge of. So as experts in M&E, one of the things we can help government on is to take back and appraise some of these projects, even when they are running, and be able to tell the government and say, look, we know you have very much to do Entebbe Express Highway, or you very much want to do SGR, because I have issues with SGR. But we think that at this particular moment, probably SGR is not the right project. Maybe let us quicken the repair of our meter gauge railway. So those are the kind of proposals you want to give government. So Joyce, really, yes, those are kind of the things I would really want you and the team really to look at, and we begin to put government on the spot, because it seems that sometimes we have these desktop projects, and when we come to implement them, we get a problem. You might also recall that the Northern Bypass was supposed to be completed in 5 years. It took us 20 years. We haven't even finished it. If you passed by recently, we're actually repairing it. So anyway, those are some of the issues that we can really deal
with. Thank you very much. Quite thorny issues, but they need to be addressed, because this is the time, and the evaluators are on call. And these are some of the challenges that we meet when we move out within our country. Some of the projects that we encounter, and also some of the issues raised here obtain and have no voice in spaces like, unless we have spaces like this. Now, this Dauda, who has put a question, Mr. Julius. The partnership is a pregnant point in this case. Otherwise, we can influence a lot of things through collaborations and partnership. Evaluators are able to raise an alarm to the government where there is underperformance. I want to emphasize the area of capacity building, which is critical. He was giving a comment, but in terms of where you have moved, Julius, within the districts, but sure, in terms of evaluation, what experiences do you find within the local government when you are collecting this information? The author has also put another comment. I think Julius has put it right. We need to collaborate and support CSBAG. The ESCOM should follow this up, and we do joint evaluation activities to support government programming. This is key. Thank you very much, Otika. Julius, kindly comment on some of those areas that are comments that have been put up in our chat.
Yes, I think, could you, Matthias, repeat your last question? Is the one I didn't get, the last one, the one you yourself. About
it was
this
about
correcting
yes,
information.
Yes, from the local governments. What challenges have you met, and how have you addressed them in terms of accessing this data and the use and utilization, even of the data that they use? How is it being applied? From your findings, is the evidence use informing decision making within and budgeting process within the local governments before we go to the national budgets?
Yes,
because that's where it comes from.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think Dauda Isabiri, I think I agree with you. Partnership is really very important. And I just posted and said that government has really invested so much in audits. You know, we even have an audit act, you know, for the government money. But we have not really invested so much in monitoring and evaluation. In fact, I don't know how many agencies in this government have got M&E officers. At the district, it is worse. They don't have. They have a planner, and the planner is a M&E officer, is a preparation officer, is everything. So it is very critical that we can really support government in this particular area. The Minister of Finance for it, because it has this broader mandate. It has got a BAMAU program, budget monitoring and analysis unit, that really goes out to look out for how money is being spent. The Prime Minister has the, on an annual basis, they conduct, but different agencies do not provide us this particular information, and we can definitely be able to support them. Local governments, really, there is a very huge problem in terms of data collection. First, there is no centralized data for them. So you can imagine how you start with. In fact, one of the issues that we raised was that even when they're developing their district strategic plans, government needed to support them actually to collect the baseline data. Just that, baseline data in your own district. Because if you can't do that, then definitely all you are based on could be air in our own sense. So the data is very limited. The one that is there is outdated. And even when you find that it is current, probably the scope is very, very, very small because they have not invested in the M&E very well, like the national government. Yes, so it's critical really that we, as evaluators, I think you have a space in influencing government. You have space in working with some of us really who want to see our government do better. Because you see, when I go out and because like now we are preparing to evaluate the parish development model. And I have this thing in my stomach is like, really the results are not going to be nice. But we really need to do it in such a way that it can inform the way government is going to spend money. Because we believe that parish development model is one of the key unique programs that has gone very closely to an ordinary person in this country. So that's for me one of the things that can really help us. James says, I wonder how community-led M&E system can be useful in the budget implementation and accountability. Yes, definitely it can, because, and this is, I was trying to give you an example. I remember we had a project in Kabale, I think like 10 years ago, and government was pumping in money for UPE. But when we asked the population what they wanted secondary schools, because World Vision had built a number of primary schools in the area. So that was no longer their problem. So when you have community-led M&E systems, they can actually tell you what the communities want than what you think they need. So that's one way. And if we can definitely improve on this, then we can be able actually to engage government and say, that's why you have a problem in Karamoja. Somebody wakes up in the morning and says, I want cassava. We should provide cassava cuttings to the Karamojong. All they have to do is they put them out, they dry and use them as firewood. Simply because if we had this community-led M&E system, they would have been able to tell us that the Karamojong region, this is what they want. And the last time I was there, they told me 3 things. We want water, we want water, we want water. So cassava cuttings might not work. No wonder the iron sheets were eaten. Because probably people were thinking of different, they have different needs than what we think what we think they need. So yes, it's very, very important that we invest heavily in a community-led M&E. Thank you very much.
Julius, colleagues, are there any other issues that you like to raise? Kindly unmute and raise them. You are free to unmute.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, colleagues. I would like to somehow differ with Julius when it comes to hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
I would like somehow differ
Yeah.
with the Julius when it comes to government of Uganda borrowing. I think the appetite by our government to borrow is too high. To the extent that we are borrowing even to when we are running for, we can say, day-to-day activities. If, for example, is in a home, and this is really uncalled for. And when our government borrows this money, where does this money go? For example, if it borrows, 75 trillions, where does this money go? When we look at our current loan debt burden, where does this money go? And how do we use this money? For instance, let's look at the period of COVID-19. When you look at the period of COVID-19, the government passed a supplementary budget to buy medicine and other essential drugs. But when you look at all the drugs that COVID-19 drugs that were being dispensed to the different health facilities, these were donations. And as M&A officers, we have never questioned where did the money go that the supplementary budget was passed, where did this money go? So I think as M&E officers, when we do some of these activities, we need to really call a spade, and that's when our government will really try to understand that we need to have value for money, because when we do activities, even as M&E, they take taxes from us, and we need to have value for our taxes. Thank you.
Hello, Matthias.
Hello. Yes,
Hello,
Julius?
Matthias.
Yes, please.
Is maybe I respond to that?
Yes, please.
Yes, yes. I think there was also some, but Stephen also was asking whether we have whether we do M&E. I say yes. As an organization, we do on a quarterly basis. Even right now, we are in our biannual reflection and planning. We are trying to. We've just done our field work on monitoring the progress of our work. That one we do as an organization. We do. But if we want to do one for government, then that's external, it takes outside of our day-to-day operation M&E areas, and that's why I think for me as an expert, as a professional body here, it is where we need to come in. But also I can't fail to mention to you that in the civil society sector, actually, we are also missing M&E systems. A lot of it. I can tell you from experiences that even the system we have, somebody comes and they will poke holes into it because they say this is not working, this is not there. So it's also a virgin area, and I think this professional body can also probably support the civil society sector in establishing comprehensive M&E system, especially now that we are in the period of online. Everything is online, so you would really want that if you have field offices, there is a system that can that your field officers can input, and then you can be able to consolidate this information. The biggest challenge we have is that the M&E systems that are out there that are virtual are very, very expensive, not only to start and work with them, but also operational wise. So probably one of the things that I could also request you to look into as a professional body is to develop we call them made in Uganda, which we can really be able to use as Ugandan organizations to be able to be effective in our work. Because as CSBAG, if we are going to finish the financial year, you need to have all this information on one computer, on one system, on your server. But then you find yourself now trying to dig up all the reports from January as you begin to compile. So it's an area that I can also encourage you to look at. I think there was the issue around, somebody's asked issue around where does this money go? Value for money. I agree with you, really. I totally agree with you. We borrow all these monies, and like I told you, is we borrow them for projects. You know, like there is a Greater Kampala Metropolitan Area project by World Bank for fixing potholes, for example. You know, you would like to ask yourself, should you borrow money to fix potholes or to build new roads? You know, that's something you want to ask, because fixing potholes is an operational budget. You need operation and maintenance budget. But you can't borrow money for the road and you also borrow money to maintain that particular road. You will never borrow yourself out of poverty. I can assure you that. It will never happen. So we need to be strategic and borrow for only those things that are not operational, and then we do operational areas. Is it because we don't have money to do it? No. This country has enough money to do its work. The only problem, our appetite to spend on the things that don't concern us is extremely very high. You see, you just want to give one small example and say, fine, you want to build SGR. But is it a do or die that it must be this financial year? You can't postpone it. And create physical space to repair roads in this country. You can do that. So it's a question of priority setting that is giving us a problem. Value for money, there are two things I can tell you about. A study has been conducted which has shown that the cost of constructing a kilometer of road varies between 3 billion and 20 billion. And then you ask yourself, really, why does that occur? It occurs because some people who give us money are the ones who want to build the roads. So these roads have become very expensive. So it comes expensive simply because some of that particular area. The secondary is this is a government that lacks a price list and standards. At our age, those who are in the age of late 40s and early 50s, when we were growing up, you would see a house and know that is a government house because of the way it was made. You would see a sub-county, they would tell you, that's a sub-county, simply because of the design of that particular house. But today you can't tell whether this is a school, a hospital, or an office. Recently, there was a WhatsApp group. They were showing a sub-county office in Kanungu. You could not tell whether it was an office or a big toilet. So lack of standards has also led to loss of money because people do things the way they want. Government lacks the standards. But also the price list. If you buy a pen from a big, same design, and supply it in different government departments, you will supply it at different prices from the same supplier. You are losing money. In this is a country whereby every government official drives a different car. Then you ask yourself, don't we have a standard of what kind of car we should buy as a government because of the little resources we have? Because when you are poor, you can try to limit the luxuries that come with your office. So yes, value for money is very critical and very important. And I think a price list, service delivery standards are very critical in doing some of this work. Thank you, Matthias.
Thank you, colleagues. Is there anyone who would like to raise an issue? Otherwise, I would love to call Josephine to conclude this meeting. Josephine?
Yes, Matthias, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, thank you, members. I think we've done a great service to this topic and to this discussion. And I also want to thank once again Julius. So just to remind us members that we have other avenues of continuing this discussion. Julius has already opened the door for us that we can engage and collaborate. Any kind of information that will be useful to help them build, side B of the story will be key. And also just remind us that we have the Uganda evaluation standards, which have been in existence since 2012. And these standards, in such cases, they help us to assess utility, quality, key aspects that relate to evaluations. So even as we're talking about how do we want to take forth evaluation into evidence space or decision making, let's also try to check to be sure that what we are giving is not the Baganda Sebutwa. So we want also to be very well prepared from our side so that we are good to give out to others. So I think also just remind us, for those who are not yet members of the association, you can join the association as an institutional member, where we take 20 members, and the first payment, if you're joining UEA for the first time, is 2 million for membership, and then 1.5 subscription annually. If somebody's coming in for the first time, you have never been a member of UEA, you're coming in for the first time, then you pay 200,000 and then 100,000 for annual subscription. So that will be 300 for the first time, but for the years going forward, it's 100,000 for professionals. And we do the same kind of approach for students and young and emerging evaluators, only that for them it is lesser, it's 100,000. So remember to join in, make yourself a paid up member. We continue benefiting from these services and especially the volunteers that allow to speak to us. We really appreciate them. And so we'll keep up another discussion next month as we meet for another national evaluation talk. We'll communicate about the topic. The same way you go to learn about this one is how we are going to communicate the next topic next time. So once again, allow me appreciate greatly the contribution and interjections that have been made in this discussion by our key presenter today, Mr. Mukunda Julius, the Executive Director, CSBAG. And for those who want to contact you, are you open to share your contacts, Julius? Or do we just catch you on the website?
Please, I mean, Josephine, you can share.
Okay, fine. So, and then
Yes.
also the recording, the poor of us for the recording. So these days, we're in the era of consent seeking, is it data privacy, a lot of English words these days. So do you allow us to share the recording?
Please do. Please do.
Okay. So thank you so much, members, and our presenter. We can close at this point. Matthias, back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Josephine. Thank you, Josephine, and our colleagues, for those who have stayed with us since we began. Our talks, the national evaluation talks, begin on time from 2 to 4 p.m. and they are shared beyond the actual, beyond those who are actual. So when it's recorded, others also ask for it and then listen to it even after in their convenience. Thank you very much, colleagues, for sitting in and sharing these useful insights. Wish you all a good afternoon, and we look forward to another presentation. We shall be communicating this soon, but also some other training. We shall be also communicating this soon on the chats. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Thank you very much, Julius.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here. Bye-bye.